So welcome to the ninth in our My Farm to ECE mini webinar series. Today we'll be talking about farm to early childhood programs at Farmington Community School Early Childhood. They'll be talking about their approach to farm to ECE. I'm really excited to have Shira Daya joining us today to talk about their experience. My name's Abby Harper. I'm the farm to school specialist at the MSU Center for Regional Food Systems. And with that, we'll kick it off to Shira.
Great, thanks, Abby. Hello, everyone. My name is Shira, and I am the Head Start and Early Childhood Nutritionist for Farmington Community School Early Childhood Center. Today, I want to give you a brief overview of our Farm to Preschool program and hopefully leave you with a sense of how easy, fun, and rewarding it is to incorporate farm to school programming at your own early childhood center. Farmington Community School launched our Farm to Preschool program in spring of 2015. And since then, we procure, prepare, and serve fresh, local, and organic produce to our Head Start, Great Start Readiness, and Community Ed students once monthly during afternoon snacks. Farmington Community School Early Childhood also participates in the Michigan Apple Crunch and Michigan Cherry Slurp, which many of you are probably familiar with. And these are statewide events co-sponsored by Cultivate Michigan to highlight some of Michigan's most well-known agricultural products. All 12 of our Head Start, GSRP, and participating tuition-based classrooms are located within the Farmington Community School Early Childhood Center, where we also have an on-site licensed kitchen to accommodate more involved produce preparation, such as roasting sweet potatoes or baking and mashing butternut squash. So we have a number of local farm partners that keep us supplied with farm fresh produce throughout the year. For the most part, we follow a direct purchasing model, which means we purchase our produce directly from the farmer. During our pilot in the spring of 2015, we purchased directly from Tantre Farm and transported the produce ourselves from the Washtenaw Food Hub to Farmington Community School for each of our events. But then last May, we reached out to MSU Tollgate Farm and Education Center in Novi to develop a sustainable partnership with the farm as our primary grower. So this year, Tollgate grows and stores produce for us, and for a small fee, they deliver the produce to our school each month. So this has made it a lot easier for us to get the produce from the farm to our school without adding additional logistics. Here in this slide, you can see a photo of a very happy preschooler taking a bite out of an apple from Kapnick Orchards. And this picture was taken during the Michigan Apple Crunch this past year. I really like this photo because it seems like the child is having a lot of fun eating this apple. And there's a smile in his eyes, and it's inspired by fresh and healthy food. Capturing and fostering that enjoyment was the motivation behind the design of our Farm to Preschool program. The idea for our program was first inspired by the grant opportunity from MSU Center for Regional Food Systems. As a Head Start and Early Childhood Nutritionist, I was specifically looking for opportunities to help our students engage with and enjoy fresh, healthy food like fruits and vegetables. We've already worked with our food service to successfully add a variety of fresh produce like cantaloupe, watermelon, pears, and berries to our menus. But we also know that when kids are able to work directly with the food that they eat, and when they learn about how it grows and when they can use all 5 senses to experience the food, they are more likely to enjoy it in the short and long term. So that's what motivated us to start the program. We wanted to help children develop a preference for fresh produce that will hopefully last for many years to come. We also wanted to engage students in hands-on healthy food activities, introduce children to new flavors, textures, and colors of less familiar vegetables like kohlrabi and purple carrots, increase the reach and frequency of classroom nutrition activities, and most importantly, we wanted to cultivate positive, healthy eating experiences and specifically a sense of enjoyment and fun around fresh fruits and vegetables. We decided to apply for the planning grant to prioritize and support our program design and pilot. And with that, we formed a small planning committee that currently includes our early childhood director, Head Start GSRP teacher, our on-site food service coordinator, our administrative assistant, and me, who is the Head Start nutritionist. The primary funding source for our Farm to Preschool program is MSU Center for Regional Food Systems. We received a planning grant for the 2015-16 school year and an implementation grant this past year. The funding covers programming for our Head Start and GSRP students. We also have in-kind funds from the Farmington Community School Early Childhood Center that allow us to extend the Farm to Preschool activities to our community education or tuition-based classrooms, which includes about 45 students. With the MSU Farm to School program funds, we purchased kitchen equipment, including baking sheets, a food processor, and a 5-gallon salad spinner to wash leafy greens. Currently, we're looking into buying an induction plate also for classroom cooking demonstrations. We also purchased classroom kits so students can wash and prepare produce. The classroom kits include child-safe chef knives, vegetable scrubbing brushes, vegetable peelers, and cutting boards, like you can see here in this picture. The students love this part of the Farm to School event, and you can see that many of our photos show the students working with these kits to prep the food for snacks. We purchased a selection of books related to fruits, vegetables, gardening, and growing to further expand our students' understanding of food and where it comes from. These books are a part of our nutrition lending library, and teachers come in and borrow the books throughout the school year depending on their needs. Additionally, the planning committee developed a Farm to Preschool binder that contains a collection of short classroom activities, lesson plans, and resources for teachers, including recipes, to help guide them in introducing new foods in the classroom. Lastly, our Farm to Preschool program is very fortunate to have the tremendous ongoing support of our early childhood director, Kirsten Jules. For any early childhood program looking to start something like this, the two things that we have found essential to our success, in addition to the funding, are the Farm to Preschool Planning Committee and the unflagging support of our director. So this is a look at our produce calendar for the year. As you can see, so far we've offered a mix of familiar and less familiar produce, including cherry tomatoes, broccoli and cauliflower, apples, a variety of winter squash, carrots, kohlrabi, frozen cherries, and local honey, which we just recently served over plain yogurt. This month we're featuring trays of pea shoots. We did this last year, and the kids get to take a look at the soil and kind of explore the roots, run their hands through it, and then they cut it, wash it, and eat it. And they absolutely loved this experience last year. For the sake of ease, we try to bring in produce that can be eaten raw. Teachers always have an option of cooking the produce in our kitchens, but we don't want that to be a requirement. As the program grows and our teachers become more comfortable leading farm to school events in the classroom, we might incorporate produce that requires a little bit more prep, like beets, sweet potatoes, or parsnips. But for the time being, everything is pretty much able to be eaten raw. So as I mentioned earlier, our Farm to Preschool program serves approximately 200 students each month, including 150 Head Start and Grade Start readiness students. We hold a Farm to Preschool event each month and integrate the produce into our afternoon snack. Although we sometimes refer to these events as tastings, our goal is to serve a full snack-sized portion of the highlighted fruit or vegetable. In the future, we may try to be reimbursed for the cost of the produce if we serve it as a fruit or vegetable component of our snack program. But for now, while we figure out how much we need to fulfill that half-cup serving requirement and also to decrease the significant amount of paperwork, we offer it as supplemental to our snack program, and that's been okay with our funding stream so far. Our program emphasizes hands-on learning experiences with the fruits and vegetables. We incorporate stories and songs to build context and increase fun around the food. And once in a while, Farmer Will from Tollgate will stop into a classroom to say hello and talk to the kids about how food is grown. For the past 2 years, we've also participated in the Michigan Apple Crunch, and this year we made Michigan cherry smoothies for our students as part of the Cherry Slurp. Last April, we arranged a field trip to Tollgate Farm so that preschoolers could see the farm and feed the animals and even plant some seeds, which we told them would be vegetables for us in the fall. And with any leftover funding, we purchased bulk produce from a local organic farm and offer it to our Head Start families at our end-of-year picnic. Last year, we distributed heads of assorted lettuce, and it was a huge hit with our families. Every classroom runs their farm to preschool events differently. Our produce comes in on Monday, and the teachers have the whole week to present the produce in their classroom. This allows our teachers and our classrooms to share equipment, such as slow cookers. A lot of them used it for apple sauces and for steaming the broccoli. And they're also able to exchange ideas throughout the week for successful events. Some classes are very comfortable having the kids participate in the preparation, including things like peeling and chopping and washing produce, which you can see in these photos here. And they build their lesson plans around it. Classes spend time talking about how the vegetables grow and why they have dirt on them, unlike in a grocery store. Other classrooms focus on the tastings and thinking about what they liked and didn't like. Some teachers love to turn extra produce into applesauce or pumpkin bread to share with the students. So there's lots of different ways to present it in the classroom. As the program has developed, we've really let teachers decide how best to incorporate the produce into their classroom so that they have free creative control over this. The produce calendar helps teachers plan for their activities well in advance. And as I mentioned, Our planning team has developed suggested activities, but these are not required. So it's just there as a reference in case they want to, if they need some ideas. But really, we feel the most important thing is that the students are exposed to different produce each month and that they get a chance to see it and to smell it and feel it and taste it and hopefully love it. And as it turns out, the kids and teachers really do love this program. Last year when we introduced fresh spinach, everyone was completely blown away. Many of our teachers were used to having only baby spinach, and these were huge full leaves that we brought in. The children were surprised that the spinach tasted a little sweet and also crisp. And they ate it up, and teachers remarked that the kids ignored their beloved ranch dressing on the side, which was a really fun little side note. This fall, a parent shared that she had started cooking squash at home because her child had talked about how much he enjoyed eating it at school. So these are really wonderful experiences, which we're not just seeing in the classroom, but they're also translating into what's happening in the house, which is really a wonderful side effect of the program. As I mentioned earlier, having a planning team that is devoted to keep the program running smoothly is essential. It helps lessen the workload all around, and it brings in a variety of ideas and perspectives, and it also makes it easier to coordinate logistics. Surprisingly, it's not that expensive to host a farm to preschool program. We were able to fund this program for between 15 and 30 cents per child per event, which is significantly less than what we had estimated. So we've all been really happy with how much money we've been spending on bringing in actually a lot of really great food for the kids. Over the past 15 months, we have learned a few valuable lessons. We depend on a healthy harvest, and it's important to be flexible and have a backup plan in case whether pest control or cold storage goes wrong at different points in the year. So to give you an example, in November, our broccoli crop was consumed by groundhogs. So we offered the students a mix of broccoli and cauliflower. But we were supposed to feature cauliflower in January, so this allowed us to feature kohlrabi instead, and many of the staff and students hadn't tried it before. So it is just really important to maintain that flexibility and kind of go with it when you're sort of dependent on these things that are out of your control. Similarly, in February, we learned that our farm's sweet potato store was no longer edible, and so as an alternative, we featured frozen Michigan cherries. So there are ways of navigating the challenges, but being aware that variables such as temperature, rain, or groundhogs might affect your plan is pretty important too. So looking ahead to next year, we'd really like to increase the amount of parent engagement in our Farm to Preschool program. This year, we did develop a set of parent handouts for each farm to school event that talk about what their child tried, a little information about how the produce is grown, what it looks like, why it's so good for us, and then we also include a recipe. We're hoping to strengthen the connection between what's happening in the classroom and what's happening at home, and also encourage families to eat more fruits and vegetables with their children. This year, we've tried to bring more focus to the growing component of the food as well. For example, how a carrot grows underground and is pulled from the soil before we wash and eat it. This will continue to be a focus for us in the upcoming school year. And finally, as always, we want to make sure that our program is sustainable because it's required a lot of effort, and we're so happy with it already. And we think about sustainability both financially and operationally. So we're looking at ways to fund the program long term. And we also want to make sure that any staff change or change in program leadership doesn't affect the long-term operations of our Farm to Preschool program. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So far, we've been very pleased with our programming, and we're very happy to assist others who are looking to start similar Farm to Preschool programming at their center. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shira. That was a really comprehensive look at your program, and I'm sure a lot of valuable tidbits fell on all of our listeners. I had one question come through, which was about any tips that you have for making connections with farmers or finding the farmers that you work with. What have been kind of the pieces to making that successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually been pretty fortunate. One of our teachers, the one who's on our planning committee, actually she worked at Tollgate during the summer. So she had a connection already. And she also spent a lot of time at Eastern Market, so she knew some of the farmers there. So that worked out. Our administrative assistant works at a farm as well. So there's sort of those internal farm connections. I actually just spent a lot of time I live in Ann Arbor, and so I just went to the Ann Arbor Farmers Market and talked to vendors there to see who was interested and able to provide a school with produce. And I think that's really the way it is. It's sort of a combination of kind of cold calling in a way, and also just figuring out who knows who in the farm world. One thing I did do was actually go to a couple of restaurant sites that I know specialize in farm to table food, and check to see who their growers were, because I knew that they would be able to grow in large capacities and probably had a system of transportation and delivery already set up. So that's something that you could also try.
Very cool. And then with those initial conversations with your farmers, did you go asking for specific products, or did you have them kind of lead you to certain products?
It was kind of a combination of both. When I called Tantre up, they actually had direct experience doing farm to school tastings in Ann Arbor, so they were able to guide me a little bit. Really, we wanted to focus in on what we could serve raw to our preschoolers. And we also wanted to make sure that the experience was going to be a good one. So, for example, older kids might actually really appreciate like shaved beets with a little bit of salad dressing on it. But we were thinking that it might be a little bit spicy for kids. So it's not that we don't want to serve it eventually, but we didn't want to sort of shock them with all these very strange, unfamiliar vegetables in the beginning that might be peppery or a little bit sour tasting as well. So we wanted a mix of what was available and, you know, what we knew they would kind of like to get their appetites wet, I suppose.
Awesome. I had a couple extra. Somebody asked about the general cost. I think you mentioned that at one point. Could you just reiterate the cost per student?
Sure. So I did some checking, and it actually turns out we've been able to provide our students with snacks for somewhere between 15 and 30 cents per child per event. That doesn't include delivery, but there are certain things like kohlrabi, and broccoli, which were really inexpensive. But then something like cherry tomatoes turned out to be, you know, on the higher end. But it's actually, it's surprisingly affordable for us to do this.
Yeah, and I know for a lot of folks, one of the challenges in starting this work is a fear about that increased cost. So nice to find out that
Right.
There was another question about the demographics of your students. Can you speak a little bit to the population you serve?
Sure. It's, and I don't have demographic information in front of me, but just, from walking through the school, it's definitely a mix of lots of ethnicities. We do have a lot of immigrants here, actually, from the Middle East and Syria. So we do have lots of sort of worldly flavors that we try and accommodate, or worldly tastes that we try and accommodate. As general in most preschools in the area, there's also a mix of African American students as well. But I'm really mostly seeing Middle Eastern, African American, white, and a few Spanish speaking kids as well.
Awesome. And then have you used your farm to preschool program at all to kind of like highlight foods from those different cultures?
We haven't yet, though we were actually trying to do for some of our foods, and we have a food processor as well that we ordered. We were thinking about starting to make dips, healthier dips just besides the ranch dressing, to sort of help the kids enjoy their fresh carrots, with a side of hummus or something, because that also sort of touches upon, bringing in those flavors of the world into the classrooms, which is definitely recommended in the Head Start curriculum as well.
Yeah. And then one final question was about the recipes and parent handouts that you mentioned. Are you willing to share some of those examples?
Yeah, for sure. We could definitely do that. I think I'd actually said I would send you some.
Yeah, if you want to send
so
me.
I'm happy to share that.
I can share them out with the people who have attended today.
Yeah. And really what it is it's, it'll be a picture of the fruit or vegetable, and it's usually black and white, so we can just make copies of it really easily. And so that also kids get a sense of what it looks like, in a image form. And then we'll have some nutrition facts that we've taken from the Just Say Yes to Fruits and Vegetables curriculum, a couple recipes that might actually also come from that same source. So it's sort of a blend of things that are already available, but I'm happy to share that for sure.
Awesome, thanks. I think that's all we have for questions. So unless anyone else wants to chime in with a question quick, we will end it there for today. Thanks so much, Shira. Appreciate you sharing your story.
Oh, my pleasure.
And if anyone has follow-up questions, feel free to email me. I didn't put my email up there, but it's harperab@msu.edu. If you have any questions for me or Shira, I'm happy to forward those on as well. So great. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.